going on, trading card game players? Figs here with Figs Forum, bringing you guys my Doflamingo OP4 deck profile. So I wanted to go ahead and showcase for you guys what I've been playing for Doflamingo. This is Blue Doflamingo for the new format. So I've been playing Doflamingo actually for a little while now. I got back into the game right before Gen Con. I played Croc for a little while. Then I started realizing that, Doflamingo was a better Croc at the time. So I started playing Doflamingo, and I still think it's an amazing deck going into this format. I've actually struggled against almost nothing currently. The biggest issue that I had playing the deck was just yellow or Katakuri. But with Red Rock, I mean, you pretty much got the answers that you need in order to deal with the bigger bodies. You apply enough pressure early on, you're able to get them down to low life, and they have a hard time then playing their bombs because they're always going to be consistently tapped. And that deck just does not have a lot of combo power compared to a lot of the other decks. So being able to deal with the deck has been actually a lot easier. I've had a lot more success in that matchup. It felt like a really downhill matchup before, but it feels great now that we have Red Rock and other tools. So I wanted to showcase for you guys what I've been playing. I actually just recently played at a box tournament where I actually went, I only lost one game. I dropped the game to Whitebeard because I actually went to go set the top of my deck with a Doflamingo and ended up actually putting the wrong card on top. I went to go play Kaya to draw so I can pick up Twister, which I'm playing. And I was going to bottom deck their blocker during their turn, not take any damage or take only one damage that turn, and would have killed them the next turn. But unfortunately, I ended up actually accidentally putting the Warlords on top instead of the Twister, drew the wrong card, left 2 energy open for no reason. And then during my turn, I had the Warlords, the blocker, which actually left me with just short enough Don to kill my opponent. So yeah, it definitely, like I said, was a misstep for me, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I've had a lot of success with the deck. No deck feels like a bad matchup. Just because you have now access to everything, the deck just utilizes as much of what it needs in order to complete its game plan against every deck across the board. So yeah, it feels really good. It applies a lot of pressure, and I think that's one thing I like about it the most compared to Croc is that it does have an early game. You are being able to utilize the leader effect along with your 4 for 5s that are allowing you to apply pressure against the decks that normally regular blue Croc can't. I know I don't have the same versatility, being able to loop the event cards like Red Rock to allow me to continue to establish an empty board, but we are playing enough events as well as enough abilities that allow us to control our opponent's board. So I'll explain some of the card choices, how I've been utilizing them, and how you can basically be able to take advantage of a lot of the cards in certain matchups that work well. So we'll go ahead and go over the deck profile here. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get into it. So we'll go ahead and start with the searchers, or the cards that let you set up your deck. We're playing the 4 Perona and the 4 Doflamingo. So these are the only cards that we are playing that allow us to manipulate our deck. This allows us to be able to set up our deck so that we can get advantage of our leader ability. And of course, for those who don't know, Doflamingo allows you to put 2 down underneath him, pay 1 energy on the swing, and be able to play a 7 Warlords, 4 or less from the top of the deck. So this allows us to set that up. This also allows us to be able to take advantage of cards that are coming up. So since we basically are setting up our deck, we're actually able to see our cards a little bit quicker than our opponents when they're playing these cards. Because I know this card is actually being played in Croc, being played in other blue deck. Being able to take advantage of the fact that our leader allows us to play the 7 Warlords off of the top allows us to be able to actually see cards sooner. So when we are putting our 5th card, as our 5th card, we're actually seeing it 2 turns sooner than our opponent because of the fact that the cards in between, we're playing them on our turn. So yeah, this card's really great. It's good for filtering, good for settling through, but also this is our primary blocker. I cycle this a lot with Gecko Maria, but yeah, that's all we're playing for the cards that allow us to look at the top of our deck. Then we'll go into the cards that we are playing off the top of the deck. We're playing 4 Jinbei, 4 of the vanilla Gecko Maria, 4 of the Boa blocker, 4 of the Maria that grabs from grave, 2 Traj Law, and then 4 of the Dracula Mihawk. So basically, we wanted to make sure that we optimize the amount of cards that we're able to play from the top of our deck, and this is just enough. I very rarely ever see a name that I want to play. All of these cards are really great, obviously, on the board. The Gecko Maria, this is actually probably one of the best cards in the deck, in my opinion. Being able to grab just about anything you need from the graveyard is actually pretty good, especially because of the fact that we're able to grab 2Ks. This is one of our primary 2Ks. I tend to avoid playing this obviously onto the board as much as possible, but being able to have the ability to pick up a 2K, pick up a blocker just gives you so much versatility and being able to be defensive when you need to, but also be able to be able to have the combo power or pick up a body when needed. There's several times where you know, if my board gets wiped, I'm able to just play this, grab this, play this, or grab this, play this, grab a blocker, play this, and you're just able to basically just reset up your board to get you 2 names or 2 bodies, excuse me, off of 1 card. So this was great. 4 Jinbei is still unnecessary in my opinion. Red is still a very dominant deck in the format, so you want to have access to this. They have to ignore it, otherwise they're just going to lose bodies. But we have other ways of being able to deal with bodies as well. So this combined with other cards just gives us the most utility that we need for being able to deal with the red matchup. And again, this deck has a very good red matchup because of the fact that our leader turns sideways. You know, you're always taking a card out of your opponent through their life, and then you're gaining a body. Then they're having to put Don underneath their leader, or they're going to have to put Don underneath their battle cards or characters in order to be able to swing into your guys. You defend, and then next turn, you're basically clearing their board and you're outpacing them. So that's basically the idea with this matchup. Also, with the amount of removal we have, it makes it that much easier. But yeah, this is great. Obviously, the bow is very good too for the Zoro matchup. You put a Don underneath, block, draw, defend. It's basically like being able to protect your life, but at the same time, you're replacing a card on the combo. Then we'll go over the meat of the deck. For Mihawk, this is the only boss card that we're playing. And I say boss card because it is the biggest guy. We're not playing Kaido. I don't believe Kaido is necessary. I got back and forth with it. I really considered it. I wanted to have the 12k body, but unfortunately, spending 10 to spin 2 cards isn't that detrimental. We really don't want to be putting cards back in our opponent's hand. We want to bottom deck them. The Kaido gets missed only because of the fact that he's a 12k. But since we have Red Rock now, we don't really care about the strength of our cards. We really just care about our presence. We want to make sure that we're keeping a board presence. We want to make sure that we're constantly applying early game pressure, as well as being able to eliminate our opponent's board, which is why we're trying to utilize as many cards as we can that allows us to be able to keep our opponent's boards clear. So yeah, Mihawk is the best one. It's a great card. That's also why I'm playing 2 of the Law Blocker, because we are putting ourselves on a curve where when we get to 9 and 10, or when we get to 10 Don, this plus a Law Blocker or a Perona, or 1 under leader, or we're doing Red Rock plus 3 for leader and then a blocker or Perona. So we're able to still really be able to make very good plays, even though our expenditure can be a bit high on our removal. So that's the premise. I mean, we want to make sure that whatever we're doing, we're not only being able to clear bodies, but we're also being able to put a body on the board in the same turn. So, you know, like I said, Red Rock for 6, you know, leader for 3, play a body, play a blocker, play a Perona, pass. You know, we're clearing something, we're putting something on board, we're applying pressure. So we're constantly, you know, building a board, removing, building a board, removing. And that's really the premise of how we're playing this deck and why it's been giving me so much success, because across the board, we have removal through everything. Removal at all numbers. And again, there's nothing this deck ideally can't deal with in terms of removal. Then the other 2Ks that we're playing, so we're playing 10 2Ks in total. I went with a 3-3 split. There are situations where I do want to draw because, of course, we are setting the top of the deck. We do know what's coming up. And sometimes if there aren't any names that we care to play, sometimes we do want to draw them. We don't have the ability of being able to put this in our hand aside from Twister. Twister does have the Trigger from Life ability that allows you to return 1 character 6 or less to the hand. So you can, if you really needed to, bounce this to your hand. In the event you're like getting hit, you have no Don open, you do want to defend another attack, you are able to then spin this back to your hand. But ideally, we went for a 3-3 split because we wanted to have the option of being able to use both effects if we absolutely needed to. This does come up sometimes, you know, if you have a really tough hand against an early game deck like Zoro. This gives you a body to put on the board to help combat their board, but also allows you to get rid of the Mihawks and the Red Rocks so that you can find defensive cards or other cards that allow you to be able to utilize dealing with your opponent's board. So 3-3 split felt good, or feels good, just because, again, you want to be able to have access to both abilities, and that's enough 2Ks for you to, you know, be defensive. So we'll go over the events. We've got our 4 Red Rock, we got 3,000 Worlds, and we've got 3 Dragon Twister. So this feels really, really good, honestly. It seems like a lot, but it's really not. It gives us more options for trigger abilities in the life as well, which has been phenomenal. 4 or less off the trigger, 3 or less off the trigger to bottom deck, and then this is actually 6 or less to hand. And this actually does come up sometimes. So again, Red Rock is just the best removal in the deck. It doesn't feel like too much sometimes because, again, you're paying 6 to remove something off of your opponent's board. You're then using 3 on leader ability, which leaves you with 1 open. So you're either playing the Law, or you're playing Perona, or you can even put the additional Don under your leader, or if you have something else on board, give the Don to an additional body. for more damage. So it gives you the option and accessibility of being able to have removal while also making plays. And I think that's the most important thing because, again, with other blue decks, they're not able to do that. Like, the most they can do is, even Croc, again, you're not really playing a lot of bodies unless you're playing the Sentamaru package. If you're not playing Sentamaru, you're only playing Red Rock and then ideally playing maybe a double Sunday and passing. You're not really doing much aside from that. And again, like that's not a horrible play, but in order to allow you to be able to continue to establish pressure and have a board presence, that's why I really love how that works. Again, removal, 3-1 for a prone or a blocker to set your deck to play something or to be able to have the defense. Then the 3000 worlds, of course, is just solid. I didn't want to cut it just because we had Red Rock because this is also a low expenditure removal. So early on, if we're off curve and we're going second, our opponent goes first, they play something for 5. We want to be able to have this to get rid of something for 4. So that's the biggest thing is that, like, as we're passing back and forth, you don't always want to be able to just, dump your Red Rock. Sometimes your opponent may have something 5 or less that you really want to get rid of, but don't want to spend 6. The 4 is that much better just because of the fact that it allows us to be able to still utilize the Don that we have for the rest of the turn. Because this is 4, this is 3 for 7. Excuse me, leaves us with 3 more open, which allows us to either be able to put 1 Don under something, play a 1-drop blocker, play the 3-drop Doflamingo, look at the top of our deck, put a blocker, or pay 1 and then have 2 for Twister. So again, just all about how you're utilizing your Don, make sure you're establishing a board and also removing stuff. Twister actually has been low-key broken. I actually replaced it for Love Love. I do miss the draw on Love Love, but again, a 2 for 4 that protects anything, leader or character, and then being able to bounce a 1-drop back to the bottom of the deck is actually very insane for the Zoro and Law matchup. Because again, the thing about this deck is your guys come in rested, so your opponents are always going to be trying to attack your guys. Twister gives you the defense, so if they try to go heavy on the swing because they need to remove it and don't want to deal with the pressure, Twister protects them. And in the Zoro matchup, again, being able to just, play swing, play something, they, put a guy on board, they attack with lead, try to kill it, you bottom deck something that they played from the turn previously. Now you're constantly like putting them back a turn because now that card can't swing. So that was their only swing for the turn. You keep your guy, you get 2 swings next turn, you're putting another body on board. Now they've only got the 1 guy they played from the last turn. So you see the tempo, they get outpaced. So this card definitely does allow you to be able to deal with that. It doesn't hit the Don or Curly, whatever his name is. But that's like the only one it doesn't hit. Otherwise, it deals with the Ezos, it deals with the buggies, it deals with any of the 1-drops that are a nuisance, or that do or can apply pressure. And then again, it's a 4K counter, so it does really well. Like I said, the trigger actually comes up pretty handy. The trigger is actually pretty unique because in matchups like Queen, you're actually able to if they sequence their turn slightly incorrect, being able to have this in life actually is pretty huge. Any of these all deal with their blockers, so it bottom decks them. So if they, you swing the turn before, they hit a blocker, it comes into play. Let's say they're at 1 life and they only have 4 cards in hand. Let's say they play a big guy and then they swing with a guy maybe they already had on board the turn before. They hit this in life. You're able to put their blocker back in their hand. Now they have 5 between hand and life. Now they can't actually gain a life. So that's the importance behind it is that, even though this does go back to hand, in certain niche situations like that, if your opponent missequences or they do something slightly different, this allows you to be able to punish them by putting their blockers back in their hand, which is good for you because, again, then that way they can't gain a life. They're stuck at 1. You're able to pressure them depending on what your board looks like. So it is important to actually have some of these triggers. They work in the way that you need them to. Again, even in the aggro matchups, if these are in your life, you're going to be able to take damage for free and be able to, utilize getting rid of something. Or if you just need them, obviously you play them. So this felt really good. I think the only thing I might consider changing out is 3000 Worlds. It's the only card that I feel like, again, for 2 more, you can kind of get rid of anything, but I want to have access to both because, again, I don't want to be in a situation where I have to red rock a 5 or less when I could have just used Warlord or Jinbei or Mihawk or something. So, yeah. But yeah, that's it for the deck profile. I wanted to showcase for you guys what I've been playing because, like I said, I've had a lot of success with it. I don't feel like I really have any really bad matchups because Red Rock just kind of solidified being able to deal the tall matchups. The red matchups aren't bad. The deck already had a very good red matchup, in my opinion. This kind of just seals the deal, especially against Law. That was probably the only matchup that got iffy because you're constantly swinging lead. They just defend. They don't swing with anything. And if you didn't really have the removal because Warlord was the only removal and Jinbei has to be KO'd, then a lot of times you just didn't have a way of being able to clear their board other than Warlord and Mihawk. And again, those are the only two situations. But now that we have Twister and we have Red Rock, you know, again, our removal is just through the roof. But again, this is a high ceiling deck. I definitely have to admit. I think that's one of the deterrents about the deck is that it is very high ceiling. You know, if whether you beg to differ or not, unfortunately, again, being able to set up your deck, setting up your turns ahead, you know, having to take into consideration taking damage, comboing, what your opponent might play. Again, you know, those are things that you really have to think about when you're setting your deck because sometimes you can set a Red Rock too far down the line, and you know you won't see it for 3 turns. Or you might set up a Mihawk 3 turns down the line, and again, it might be too late. It might be on a turn that you now can't play the Mihawk, so you just put a card on the top of your deck that you know you can't play the next turn, or it has no combo power. So like that's the biggest thing is being able to make sure that you know you're planning out your steps ahead. You're making sure that everything that you're doing in your turns, you know, again, are very utilized based on your Don, what your opponent's going to do, how you're going to defend, what you're going to protect, what you're going to take, what you're going to let die. It's a very intricate deck, but I definitely think it's very rewarding for those who take the time to really learn the strategy of how to utilize the deck in the format and understanding the matchups. Because like I said, it deals with everything. It has the pressure it needs early game to apply, and then the late game you're still good because you have Mihawk, Red Rock, being able to do just so much. And then again, just putting Don underneath your guys and just swinging really, really strong numbers you know, definitely does help. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy the deck profile. I definitely want to continue to do One Piece content. I will be going to Niagara Falls, so hopefully I do well. I will probably more or less be taking this because this is what I've been testing for the format and making adjustments. There could be possible adjustments I might make, but this has felt the strongest so far in terms of ratios and what I'm playing. But yeah, I'll definitely make sure I update you guys after Niagara. I hope you guys like and subscribe to the content and continue to enjoy. And you know, again, as always, jump in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think and any transformations that you would make to your list. So that way we can go over your formula and, you know, discuss what you guys think could be good or could be better with the deck. So enjoy.